Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today I'll be reviewing Silent Planet's latest single, Antimatter. And I've been a fan of this band since I first heard The Night God Slept back in 2014, and I've been lucky enough to see them a handful of times since then. They're one of the nicest bands you could ever meet, and they really do make fans feel special when you're meeting them. So, with that being said, let's discuss Antimatter. It was written by Silent Planet and also Dan Bronstein. And if you're not familiar with Dan, he's probably most familiar for his work with Volumes, but he's also worked with bands like Veil of Maya, Spirit Box, Dayseeker, and a couple others as well. He has a ton of engineering credits under his name. The song was also produced by Dan, and it was mixed and mastered by Buster Oatholm. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Buster is a multi-instrumentalist, and he drums for Viljarda, and he also plays guitar for Humanity's Last Breath. I also believe he's in Throne as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he's a well-decorated engineer and has worked with a ton of bands like Born of Osiris, Currents, and Winds of Plague, just to name a few, of course. All right, guys, so let's get into the review. And the way I like to review songs is in discrete components within the song itself. So we'll start with the intro. I find that the intro has a very special build-up. It starts off with that lo-fi snare that comes in during the middle over that swelling melody. I'm not sure exactly how they create the melody, but it obviously has a ton of effects on it, and it sounds really nice the way that it kind of supports the song all the way throughout. And I think it's some sort of keyboard, but here we go. We'll have a listen and see how that sounds. Yeah, this right here in the background. And we'll pause right there just before Garrett starts singing, of course. So I found here he jumps in with some of that softer singing, and I found over that lo-fi drum kit, it sounds really, subtle and keeps the that almost retro sound going, and with the swelling melody still in the background. It's pretty cool because I found Garrett singing to stay pretty tame throughout this section, which I found really helps the entirety of the track come together, just because I find there's an aggressiveness when the screaming comes in, so it offers a little bit of a contrast. Now, the instrumental track is slowly gaining resolution in the background. If you listen carefully, you can hear that, come through. And what I mean by that, it starts off with a little bit more on the bass frequencies, and you can hear that they start to bring it out in the foreground just a little bit there. And just before we reach the end of this section, I found that when they cut the drum kit, you get that last bit of Garrett wrapping up the singing, and then he says, "I'll give anything to be in over my head." And I thought that was just a really great choice. So here we go. We'll have a listen to that section now. A quick note there. It's definitely weird not to see Thomas in the band anymore, but I hope things are all going well for him. And we'll just pause right there. So when the band comes in, I find it just completely decimates the listener here. It's just it's a simple groove, with some palm muted notes and a few of the open notes here and there, but I found that the guitar just sounds incredibly full and present in the mix, and it'd be really neat to see them use this track as an opener when they are on tour. Just I think it'll really get the crowd into the set. I also think it'll throw off people who have never heard the band before, and I think that's always such a cool experience. Awesome. Seriously, what a cool little addition with that breakdown there. And I find because it comes back obviously as more of a chorus, it's a great piece in the song. All right, so just like before, we have Garrett coming in singing once again. Again, pretty tame, and I find that they mix in a backing of his screaming as well. So I think that's a nice addition. Just give the song a little bit more texture. Broken promises collapse. playing in the background. All right, and just like before, the full band comes in again, and we get a repeat of that, but this time Garrett's laying down some screams, and I find his vocals give the rhythm from earlier a lot more context for, you know, how things were paced, and I found the rhythm follows his vocals really well here. Gives a little bit of a whispered lyrics in this next section and some ambient choral sounds in the background. It almost reminds me of when Silent Planet used to open for shows, or whenever they'd headline, they have this almost like whale sounds in between sets, and I thought that was really cool. But there are these swelling beats that go between the left and the right ears here, so pay attention to that if you can. And I found add some nice depth to the mix. You can also hear the bass guitar pretty clearly in this next section. And, of course, Alex is really facilitating the build-up here on the drums, too. Just pause one more time here. I can imagine this song is going to be absolutely crazy live. We're going to see massive dog piles, I think, in the crowd. Just people climbing on top of one another to get to the microphone for this part. And it's, I think, just the way Silent Planet shows typically go, but it's definitely going to happen during this song for sure. Just to pause right here for one more time. So I find this section is probably one of the most familiar sounding in terms of what Silent Planet has done in the past. If you look back all the way to the Night God Slept, they have always had these kind of longer, almost like droning sections, and I think it's really wonderful. It adds a little build up in the section itself. And here I find Mitch is kind of extending that melody from the song to the higher strings. It's a little bit more dissonant sounding though, and definitely backs up the build up here as well. Now, I do find Dan and Buster did a fantastic job of getting some subtle ghost notes in this mix. Of course, Alex is an incredible drummer, but to hear them in the mix is really nice just because it does give you something really fun to listen to, and you can hear them pretty well in the kit during this section. So pay attention to that part. Turn it up a little bit if you need to, of course. Yep. Here we go again. Awesome. Just a fantastic song here. Now, I think Silent Planet is one of those incredibly consistent bands, and they've really been experimental with their sound since they started. But this track certainly will win over some new fans, which I think is fantastic for them. They really deserve that. They've been working hard for their entire career, and I think this is also going to satisfy all the current fans too, just because it has a really good mix of sound. I'm really interested to see what the full length is going to sound like because they really like to experiment. But again, I have no doubt that it's going to be fantastic, of course. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, please hit like down below. And if you'd like to see more of this content, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. And I hope you have a great day.